I mean, people say that our tap water's terrible. Our tap water's terrible. I've been drinking it for 21 years, and I'm in peak physical health.
Yeah.
Bear Grylls thinks
that the
that apparently the tap water's a no-no. It's very hard to trust Bear Grylls when I've seen him on multiple occasions drinking his own urine. So I don't think I really trust his opinion.
I'm not sure about his liquid intake then.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to Seriously with Sarah Beeny. Let's face it, having open and honest conversations with your family isn't always easy. But on this podcast, that's exactly what we're going to do. This week on Seriously, we're getting caught up on the climate, avoiding the lure of Dr. Google, and we take a listener question about finding your happy place.
And with the OG pod squad as well.
Yeah.
Pod squad.
Back to the OG pod squad. Yeah.
Okay.
Dad's not in this one.
No.
Yeah, he found it too much to handle.
He just couldn't keep up with our pace. Actually,
he's gone to go and
pick up Laurie and Rafi from school.
That's our two younger brothers for anyone that's new.
So this week, I want to talk about climate anxiety. So your generation, Generation Z, I think a lot of you have terrible climate anxiety. Do you not agree?
Do we?
Well, really stressed about the state of the...
Really worry about it because it's taught at school and from when you're really young, and there are people who are really terrified.
I used to have when I was younger especially, I used to have really terrifying moments.
Of climate anxiety?
Yeah. Because some of the videos, some of the things going on in the world are really bad for obviously they're really bad for the
let's
climate.
put it into perspective. One thing I often say is, people say we mustn't destroy the planet. It doesn't actually, the planet will be fine. There's not going to be anything wrong with the planet. It's going to be totally fine. It's not the planet that's the problem. We just won't be able to live on it. So what we're actually doing is destroying our ability to live on the planet. The planet will...
Along with a lot of other animals as well.
Absolutely. It will regenerate though, and something else will come. There'll be no more human beings. So what we actually doing is protecting ourselves. Maybe.
Slug people will take over.
What do you think they'll look like?
What the hell are you talking about? Slug people, mate. What?
Well, have you seen a slug? They survive anything.
I think this is an issue in every home and in every family, particularly between generations, is the different ways that different generations see the issue with the planet. And your generation is amazing because it is something that you think about. Whereas in my generation, young people, I didn't even think about it when I was young. My parents were quite hippie-ish, so they did think about it, but I didn't think about it as a child. Whereas now, your generation as children are more anxious about it, I think, than some of my generation.
Yeah, I would probably say that's true. I've met a lot of people that have sort of laughed at it and gone, that's so funny that you care about the environment.
Yeah, I think that's a very odd response, but I think that is true. There are quite a lot of people.
Like a lot of people I've met, they've gone, shut up, you're being a childish idiot.
Yeah, but I have great faith in your generation because I think your generation do give a shit. And my generation, quite a lot of them didn't. And maybe they do now, but they sort of didn't. And your generation are much more aware and trying to improve things. Whereas even the other day, someone said to me, I'm not that worried about the planet because, to be honest, it'll see me out. And I thought, gosh.
Yeah, it's a kind of stupid thought process to have, isn't it?
It seems a bit silly to destroy it for the sake of it.
Yeah,
when
that's
you don't
sort of
have
like
to.
saying, why would I ever plant a tree? Because I'm not gonna be around to see it get really big. It's literally like farting and leaving the room.
Yes,
and then locking the doors and making everyone else
breathe it in, it will go quicker, sort of thing.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then you're just outside going, whoa, ha ha ha.
So I think part of the problem with it is that for some people, when you think about it, I know that my great grandparents, I don't even know their name. They will have been people, obviously, because they wouldn't be grandparents if they weren't, but they would have been people who felt and thought and loved and had children. I know nothing about them. I don't know their name, don't know anything. So in my great grandchildren, that you won't know them. I won't know them. We won't know anything about them. They won't care about me, and I don't care about them now because they don't exist. But I do want my legacy not to be the generation that
Fucked it up.
yeah. I don't want
Yeah.
people to go, gosh, that, and they won't know me personally, but I don't want my legacy on this planet to be leaving it worse than I sort of found it.
No one wants to be in a generation like that.
No, because that would be.
It's embarrassing.
It is
what
embarrassing.
It is.
Yes, you don't want it to be attached to you in any way.
But I don't think.
Yeah.
I
There
don't
was
think you have anything. Like, I think you're fantastic. You're probably better than all of us, actually, at recycling and making sure. I mean, it was interesting. 'Cause we've actually just been in Germany, and I remember you finding it really fascinating because that was a bit more like it was back in the day. But you get paid to recycle in Germany.
It's amazing. I was so wowed by it. So we had some beer bottles, and so I didn't know how the recycling system worked. So I thought, well, I'm going back to the supermarket, so I'll go to the supermarket, and they're bound to have a bottle bin outside. And I went in and said, excuse me, where's the bottle bin? And they all speak English. It was very kind. And they pointed me to inside. I thought, where are they sending? They have a machine, and you post your recycling into this conveyor belt,
just like that.
and they suck it up and take it in. And then they give you a little receipt, and you get like a receipt with money on it. And you do your shop, and you get money off your shopping. And then that made sense because there were people at the traffic lights who had bags full of old plastic bottles. And I was thinking, why are they trying to sell us old plastic empty bottles? And they weren't. What they were doing is they were asking you for your empty bottles so that they could get the money. So the homeless people in Germany, they go around picking all the rubbish up and getting money. I mean, how genius
It's a brilliant
is that?
idea, right? It's
Yeah, it's a good idea.
So genius. And it reminds me of a story. I love this story. It's about a guy who went into the loos and he was standing next to somebody else, and they washed their hands. He was quite a smart gentleman, and he washed his hands, and he got the paper towel, dried his hands, and then he wiped the mirror and he wiped around the sink. And the guy next door to him said, how long have you been working here? And he said, I don't work here. I just like to leave everywhere better than I found it.
Cold response.
Yeah.
Cold.
That's the kind of thing that James Bond would be doing.
So cool.
And then he
And-
would,
That's so cool, isn't it?
yes.
And it now, do you know, that in my life, don't look at him like that. It was a
Sorry.
very cool thing.
That is
So cool.
Yeah. It was a cool thing. Your reaction to it was like he's like saved a baby from a shark or something.
Well, he has.
He wiped some water from a mirror.
No, he left somewhere better than he
I
found
get it,
it.
I guess-
No. You don't understand quite the impact of what he achieved in that lavatory that day.
And it does mean that, so I would now, if I went to the park and saw some rubbish, I'd probably pick it up and take it to the bin.
Yeah.
Because I kind of think, oh, if I could just leave it a bit better. If you can leave everywhere you go a little bit better than you found it, then
But if
everywhere would be better.
If everyone had that train of thought, Mum, then there wouldn't be, war, and there wouldn't be littering, and there would be.
Yeah,
But people
great.
don't. No, people don't. It's a
No,
it's a
but we
problem.
should spread the word and try and make everybody. Imagine if everyone on the planet felt
The
like that.
unfortunate thing, I think, is that I don't think climate change. I mean, I can't remember who it was who I heard speak about this, but they said, nothing changes until there's just a much easier, viable option. So it was, talking about how back in the medieval, no, not in the medieval, it was in the Industrial Revolution, you would have, horses pulling carriages along the roads in New York and London, and obviously the horses would, poo on the road, and it would mean that the streets, I imagine, stank, and there was just horse shit everywhere. And so what they ended up doing is saying you're going to be fined if you bring a horse into the city. That didn't stop anyone, so that's why you have in lots of places in London, New York, in the old parts of it, you have like steps up into the houses, because if you were driving a horse, you wouldn't want to have horse shit on your front door. So people were fined, didn't stop anything, and then do you know what switched it?
I bet they found a market for the manure.
No, the cars.
Oh, yes.
Cars suddenly meant that there was no need for horses. So it's kind of that like that. And I think, annoyingly, I think that there's an argument to be said that, people only really start concentrating when it starts affecting them.
Oh, I definitely agree with that. I've always thought people will care when it hits your back pocket. So
Yeah.
I would really like a super tax on new plastic.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's a no-brainer. So it's very simple. You just put a super tax on new plastic, and then people will start fishing it out the sea because it's cheaper to reuse the old plastic than it is to make the
What
new
did you
plastic.
say? You told me something interesting the other day that plastic is like
It's a byproduct of making fuel, and they used to have to get rid of the waste. Then they worked out that they could make plastic out of it, and so they made a market for plastic bottles, which there wasn't a big market for plastic bottles because people just reused old
Glass
bottles.
bottles,
So you'd have a glass bottle and you'd send it back, and they'd clean it out, and then they'd put more stuff in and put a new cap on, and then you'd bring it back. And that was a much better. I mean, recycling is not the best solution. Reusing is that is so much better. And what we need to do is reduce the amount we have, then reuse what we have got, and then recycle. That should be the last thing. And there shouldn't be anything after that of throw away. It should be those things in that order. And I also think that maybe people think that they can't do a big thing, so there's no point in doing a small thing. When I don't agree with that, I think if everyone did a small thing, that makes a big thing.
You wouldn't need to do a big thing.
If you look at someone who picks up one bee and puts them outside, it's only one bee. But if everybody does that, it makes a big difference. We can all make a big difference.
Yeah.
I mean, it might, if you live on your own, you might think, oh, it doesn't really matter because it's only me and there's no point in recycling anything, or there's no point in worrying about what products I use in the house because it's only me. But if you times that up by everyone in the country, and if everyone didn't care because it's only one person, it makes a huge difference. And if you, even if it's a tiny thing that you do, and I'm not suggesting anyone should be a saint, and I'm definitely not a saint, but in your home, if you scrub your loo, I mean, we all know, well, hopefully people know, that if you put loads of products down the loo, it goes into the sewage system. The sewage system works by having no chemicals in it. If you kill all the bacteria, if you kill the bacteria in a sewage system, it doesn't biodegrade. You don't want to put anything down the loo that isn't poo, wee, or loo paper. That's it. Nothing else.
What were you taught about the climate and the environment in school?
Absolutely nothing at all. Nothing. The only thing that was talked about when I was young was that Prince Charles used to talk about the planet, and everyone thought he was a Fruit Loop. They were like,
Really?
What a weirdo.
Did you not study
They
it a
all
little bit in
laughed at him.
geography though?
Nope.
Wait, so Prince Charles was
He was an environmentalist.
well, King Charles, no?
King Charles, he was Prince Charles at the time. He was banging on about the planet and the environment and bees and it was him and a few people who everyone just thought were just kind of bizarre weirdos.
Yeah.
And it wasn't seen as relevant. It wasn't taught in school. They were just kind of weirdos who were like hippies. And actually, so it turns out who got the last laugh, as now the king, was completely right.
I find it crazy how quickly the world changed from you not even being taught about it to it being heavily drilled into me.
Yeah, in one generation. I think that's interesting. And I think it was very...
Two.
Shut up. It's so rude.
But it really scared me that things like the polar ice caps melting. Admittedly, I had people telling me that when I was growing up, I was going to have to move to Birmingham because it would be the only city that wasn't underwater.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Who told you that?
I think it was on some teacher's thing.
Teachers at school used to, I think, take liberties with Charlie because he was a very gullible child. So you could say, Well, you know, if the Thames rises...
I mean, do what you want, but don't threaten to have to move to Birmingham. Do you know what I mean?
Birmingham's lovely.
I'm joking. I love Birmingham.
But I remember, polar ice, the polar ice caps is when we were growing up was a huge thing, global warming and this and that. And, suddenly for the first time, it felt like people were kind of paying attention to it a little bit more than...
But I think when you were young, I think young people of your age thought it was going to be happening next week.
Yeah, because I didn't
definitely going to happen.
I didn't believe the concept of years and years in the future. I didn't have that concept.
You thought it was literally next week. The extreme things would happen next week. And I think there's a few things that are taught to children in the things that you're taught in school. I think you take unbelievably seriously and at face value because... So I remember when when AIDS came out when I was young, and I genuinely thought that half of my friends would be dead from AIDS by the time I got to kind of 20. I genuinely thought that. And I remember being told about drugs, and there was a photo that they gave to put out at school, and it was some poor unfortunate girl in a doorway who'd had too many drugs and had died of drugs. And I genuinely thought that if you had one puff of one reefer, you would be dead in a doorway.
Yeah.
And so I think as children, you're very literal about what people say.
I was going to say at school, I was taught, about all of the horrible things that were going to happen, that the polar ice caps melting and the seas are rising by 1 meter every year, and that everything's going to be underwater, and before you know it, all going to be Kevin Costner in Waterworld. That's what I was sort of taught. But they kind of made you panic a little bit, and did give you, I guess kind of, climate anxiety. But what I actually should have been told was the small things that I myself could have done from the age of 6 up to how old I am now, to stop that, to do my part.
Yeah, but making little decisions. And if you're really thirsty, and you're obviously, if you're in another country that's really hot, you do need to have water. Yeah. But in this country, if you're really thirsty and you're 10 minutes from home, don't go and buy a plastic water bottle. Wait 10 minutes, get home.
Or if you're really thirsty, go into a cafe, can I have a glass of tap water?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
done.
Also, can I just ask? I don't know why everyone doesn't do that. I mean, people say that our tap water is terrible. Our tap water is terrible. I've been drinking it for 21 years, and I'm in peak physical health.
Yeah. Who is it? Who's the guy? Bear Grylls.
Bear Grylls thinks that apparently the tap water's a no-no.
Yeah, apparently but he drinks the water that he buys from a plastic bottle.
No, I'm going to be totally 100% honest with you. I do not trust any... it's very hard to trust Bear Grylls when I've seen him on multiple occasions drinking his own urine. So I don't think I really trust his opinion.
I'm not sure about his liquid intake then.
Yeah. And actually, I did look at him when
eating genuine poos.
No, he doesn't. No, he didn't actually.
No, he did.
He
ate a cow pad.
No. That's a massive lie. He goes about talking about how the water in our taps is so bad. 15 years ago, he made a television film where he stuffed elephant poo into his sock and squeezed it into his mouth because he needed hydration. So I think...
But yeah, there are little things you can do. I think young people shouldn't feel really anxious, but I think they perhaps should be... I think we've concluded that they should be told things they could do to help the situation and not scared into it. That's probably... the truth, because they do care. Your generation is brilliant. Maybe a bit less fear-mongering and a bit more inspiring.
100%.
Yeah. It might feel like these little things that we do at home, like properly make sure that your installation is good, or turn the thermostat down, or share a bath. It might not feel that those make a big difference, but it does, because it all adds up. If everyone makes a little bit of difference, that adds up to a lot of difference. But it also demonstrates to politicians that we do care and that we want them to change policy to make sure that we get what we want, because we do care and we want them to hear that loud and clear, don't we?
After the break, we're talking about TikTok self-diagnosis. Okay, so TikTok self-diagnosis. There's a growing trend of people diagnosing themselves with all kinds of mental health issues. On TikTok especially, videos with titles like 10 signs you didn't know you have depression or subtle ADHD symptoms that no one talks about rack up millions of views. These kinds of posts are everywhere now, designed to quickly grab your attention and to be incredibly short and relatable.
This is really interesting because there's definitely more people diagnosed with dyslexia and ADHD than when I was young in your generation. There's so many people in your generation. And when I was young, there was no space for it at all. So I do think but I sort of think that I don't think it's more prevalent. It may be more prevalent. I think
No, I think the same amount. I think the
smartphones-
same amount of people have.
Well, I think the
ADHD.
effect of smartphones on people who've got ADHD is really bad.
Yeah.
I think this is a really interesting one because me and Charles have spoken about this a lot, right? So our little brother has ADHD. I've never been tested for ADHD, but I might have it, I might not. I don't think Laurie does, and I definitely know Charlie doesn't. But I think that TikTok and Instagram, the apps that allow you to scroll, right, are so bad for your attention span. So much so that any kids that are listening to this right now, you will understand what I mean, and I'll try to explain it to mum as well for anyone that probably won't understand what I mean, will know probably what I mean by a split screen. So a video on TikTok where you split the screen and you'll have a clip from a film or a clip from a podcast or a clip from a
stand-up comedy
moment. And then on the other half of the screen, you will have someone
playing Subway Surfers.
Someone playing Subway Surfers or someone playing Minecraft or someone playing a game. So what I find interesting is that, you know, people, the reason that they're doing that is so that people can concentrate on the two things at once, because our attention spans are so bad that captures people's attention much more than just a clip from a film now. And so I think that's interesting in the sense that our attention span is so bad now as a generation that we can't even just watch plain TikTok videos now. We need to have a split screen
Double
with something else already happening.
It's double TikTok.
I think that's a crazy thing to me. And I'm like, well, then how come, you know, and you're looking like, okay, so maybe people have the same amount of maybe there are the same amount of people with ADHD, it just wasn't diagnosed. But I think that's very bad for people's attention span. Because how the are you meant to concentrate in a 55-minute lesson?
Yeah.
Depending on how long your lessons are at school, right? I do know that, you know, at school, sometimes I had a double lesson, which would be like 2 hours, you know, 2 hours back to back. And that would be maths or something. And it was, you know, pretty horrible if it was maths. It was okay if it was art or something. But still, that's a long time to concentrate. And I'm thinking, you know, if people are struggling to concentrate looking at a TikTok video
For 3 seconds.
for
They
3
need two
seconds
screens.
that doesn't have 2 screens on, how the hell are people meant to be concentrating, regardless if you have ADHD or not, for 2 hours?
You're sort of not quite on the topic. So basically, it's people that are on TikTok and then these videos are getting loads and loads of views because people are going, oh, maybe I have that, because they're saying really relatable things to try and get people to listen, to get more views, just so they can make more money.
Yeah.
Out of views. So these videos are a bit of a trick. They work in the same way as, you know, mediums, right? You know, where someone gets 100 people in a room and goes, I'm sensing that someone in here has had a John in their life. And then obviously it's 100 people in the room. Someone's going to have a John that was in their life once, whether it's a brother
Imagine
or
if
a
no one put their hand up. That'd be
lover or a
embarrassing.
mother or whatever it is. And they sort of do the same thing. So there'll be... you definitely have ADHD if you're ever tired after work, and then people will go, what the hell? I sometimes get tired after work. I have ADHD. And then they'll keep watching the video. And it basically gets more views. It gets more clicks online. I mean, it's great to talk about mental illness and remove the stigma, but that's not really what these people are doing.
These people are using a method to get clicks.
Yeah, there's so many different methods to get clicks now.
Yeah.
And A lot of them are really, really toxic. It's not a good idea to self-diagnose yourself with a medical condition online.
It really isn't.
And I've had it before where I've had a sore toe and I've searched up online, why have I got a sore toe?
It's toe cancer.
And it was liver cancer.
God.
It was either liver cancer or a stroke. Well, you may have stubbed it. I sort of breezed past that one because it wasn't a very.
But there's always that way.
Out at me in the same way.
We should do a whole episode on hypochondria.
I don't think. Yeah, I was going to say that. This whole kind of TikTok diagnosing yourself with like a mental illness. I completely understand. I get, but I don't think it's necessarily anything that new. I know before TikTok came out, if I had something wrong with me, I would search it up. If you were to search it up on Google, the first thing that comes up is the most deadly thing.
Always. And if it's not the first
you don't have a headache, you definitely have a bug inside your brain that is going to eat its way out and make your head explode.
But if it's not the first thing, you'll skip over the first things, which is you're probably a bit dehydrated, and quickly go down to
because what's that going to do?
Yeah, the glass of water will be fine.
Imagine if you could take that and run with it, how happy life would be.
Yeah.
You can't, because you try and look at you're a bit dehydrated and in your periphery, die. Is there? You can't ignore that, can you? It's impossible. The human brain is wired to try and run away from death.
Yes.
Suggesting people might have, ADHD or depression, I think is a bit of a slippery slope because
there's millions of them. There, anxiety.
It depends.
Just coming up with problems.
Coming up with problems for people, I think, is quite a negative way to. I think it's a really negative. First off, it's a negative thing to be posting online, but also I think it's quite a negative thing because, especially, I think if people are concentrating on certain things like that, like I know. For example, when I'm feeling down and when I'm feeling low, I'm fortunate enough to kind of know probably what has caused that. I probably know I haven't really achieved anything. I probably know I've, been a bit self-interested and, probably gone out and done something that I shouldn't have done, which is why I'm probably feeling a bit low or a bit down or whatever. And when I am feeling a bit low, I think that's sort of when you don't need to look at something and kind of self-diagnose yourself with depression because I think that puts you down a slippery slope and you go, okay, I've got depression now, whereas actually what you need to do is kind of get off your phone and go and do something else.
I think it's very dangerous to diagnose a mental illness like depression. Yeah. Through a gimmick on TikTok.
Yeah,
that's
and actually,
very, very dangerous. And actually the consequences of that could be really, really serious. And you need a professional. If you're going to be diagnosed with a mental illness, you need a professional to do that, not someone trying to get clicks on TikTok.
I think when people take mental health and mental illness and they kind of use it as a gimmick and use it as a bit of a, thing for clickbait and jokes, it kind of means that the people that do actually have mental illness are taken less seriously.
Yeah.
So I think that these clickbaity videos trivialize like real serious issues.
After the break, we're going to take a listener question. So this is the part of the show where we take a question from our listeners and viewers. And this week's question is, hi, everyone. My question to you is, what would give you or does give you inner peace? As long as I have peace of mind, I find I can poodle on with living merrily. Do you have a way to keep you balanced? Much love, Wendy. Absolutely love listening to you all. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Wendy.
Thank you, Wendy.
Oh, brilliant.
What gives me inner peace? I like playing on stage. I normally I've never panicked on stage. It's always, I'm always very, well, I did when we started off.
But now you're calm.
Now I'm comfortable with the crowd. I wasn't before. I was terrified.
And that gives you inner peace being on stage. That's so cool.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Does it give you inner peace when you listen to your mother?
Well, that's a really good thing to say because that's actually our new song.
If you go and pre-save our new song, Listened to My Mother, that will give you inner peace. And I've been told by reliable sources that it's the best inner peace you'll ever feel after having done that.
Yeah.
But it is.
You can pre-save it now. It comes out on Friday, everyone.
Yeah. It's a song about us probably how we should have listened to our mother. which I think is
and there's
It's a
some
very good song.
fundamental errors that were made not listening to you, and now we've realised that
we
to
should have
find inner
listened.
peace, we probably should have listened to you.
Yeah. Inner peace comes from doing as I
But then
say.
you
Hold
come
on,
up with
songwriting I find gives me inner peace.
same.
Yeah, I think you seem really calm when you're songwriting. I find I'm
Somerset gives me inner peace as well.
actually
Yeah.
Somerset does. The countryside is so
In the
beautiful.
sun. I tell you what gives me real inner peace. Going to the local pub, sitting by the fire when it's really cold outside.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then walk to it, sitting by the fire and getting stuck in. And when I say stuck in,
Yeah.
I mean to a few
Guinnesses.
Cheeky pints.
Guinnesses, yeah.
So we've spent a lot of time in London because with the band, I mean, there's most music, the industry is quite heavy in London. So we do songwriting there, we do recording there, we do all of those sorts of things. So we spend quite a lot of time in cities and it's really fun and really full on. But I feel like just coming back here and retreating from it all, I reckon this is where I'm at my most comfortable when I'm not doing anything.
Where you're most peaceful is
Yeah,
back
my
in
most
the countryside.
peaceful is.
So on stage or in Somerset. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, that was
Or
sort of
writing a song.
writing.
almost cool. Until you were like retreating and back into Somerset because I like the flowers and the nape. No, actually, that doesn't sound that uncool. Actually,
I find inner peace in my greenhouse and pottering around planting things that are undoubtedly more expensive than if I bought them in the supermarket, but I can still grow them.
yeah,
And
no.
that makes me happy.
I think you seem very happy when you're in your greenhouse.
And I also like walking the dogs. I
You
kind
like
of,
the bluebell wood, that brings you in a peace.
Oh, I love the bluebell wood. I think it's extraordinary and amazing.
Yeah.
What is it about being in the greenhouse that gives you inner peace?
I think it's kind of, I like hearing the birds. It's quiet. It's beautiful. And I think it's sort of an environment that's able to be controlled because like the whole garden is so big. I just think I don't know where to start. So it's small enough to be able to control. But also I like the fact that nature does what nature wants to. And I'm not able to make it do what it wants to. It's a sort of relationship with nature where I'm trying to encourage it to do what I want, and sometimes it just doesn't. And I quite like the fact it's a bit like, I think not. No, I'm going to die, or no, I'm going to grow this way. And I think, oh, sorry, shouldn't have. It's like
You planted some strawberries? Here, I'll give you one green strawberry.
exactly. I quite like that. It's got
size of a
real
pea.
attitude. It's kind of like, you want to tend these beans all the time? No, you have one bean. That's
One
all you're going to
broad
get.
bean.
One broad
That's
bean.
a joke, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's not.
I sort of think it's quite. I was just like, yeah, go on then.
Hold on, don't sell yourself short. We grew an entire strawberry.
It was delicious.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It wasn't
was
bad.
delicious.
fed the family.
Yes.
For a
We've had an
second.
amazing strawberry the other day, but Laurie and I ate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we cut it in half.
Yeah.
It was delicious.
Billy likes the busyness of like the city and like.
I do like.
He
I
just
thi-
likes.
It's
he likes-
actually nothing to do really with where I am. It's more to do with who I'm surrounded by, and how I think I feel genuinely I'm most at peace when I'm with people I love and I like, then I think I feel most at peace when I'm sort of doing something that I want to be doing something kind of. I like being busy. I think that's the thing about me. I don't like kind of. There's all this talk about like, I couldn't do nothing for a day. That wouldn't bring me in a peace. Like I'll be in a peace if I've kind of had a really full jam-packed day or like really gone and achieved something. I think that's what brings me in a peace mostly.
I agree with you. I think
I
doing
love
lots
a
of
peaceful
things.
day.
Do you doing nothing all day?
But I will only enjoy a peaceful day if I've had a really stressful week.
That's
and
the
then I have
biggest.
a
That's the
whole-
biggest lie I've ever heard in my life. You would be so fine if you literally just did nothing all the time.
No, but it wouldn't bring me inner peace. I could do it, definitely.
It would.
And I could achieve it.
It would bring you probably 95% inner peace.
No, I would feel a bit about myself. I would.
After how long? 4 months?
No, bro.
3 months?
I feel a bit if I don't achieve something in a day, unless it's like So this week
This
we were
boy
in London.
can
We were in
sit
London.
in his room and watch 10 hours of Netflix, come out and go,
Flicks. It's
hey,
flicks.
Oh, Netflix, whatever it is.
Netflix.
Come out of his room and go, hey, mate, how have you been? I'm like, yeah, good. What have you done today? He's like, I've watched an entire series on Netflix. I'm like, and he says it with a sparkle in his eye, like he's really proud of what he's just done. And I'm like, okay, cool. How was that? And he was like, mate, absolutely brilliant. Literally haven't left my bed. Although I did leave it to go and eat 7 packets of ready salted crisps.
Yeah, no, but that's an olden days thing. I don't do that anymore. That was back in the day.
That was like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm a changed man now.
That's such a massive lie.
In the first part of today's episode, we talked about climate anxiety. If you're feeling overwhelmed by the state of the planet or unsure what to do with your worry, Force of Nature is a UK-based youth-led organisation helping people turn climate anxiety into action. They run workshops and programmes that help shift the feeling of helplessness into something more focused and empowering. You can find out more at forceofnature.xyz. And whether your anxiety tends to centre on the climate or on your own health, as we touched on in part 2, Anxiety UK is a national charity that supports people living with various anxiety disorders. They offer therapy, helplines, and lots of practical resources. You can visit them at anxietyuk.org.uk. So next week's episode is going to be the last in this series. We've got Dad back next week. Graham is back joining us as a guest.
As a guest.
Yeah.
Can we
As a
just say that
guest.
real
Of course
quick?
he's a guest.
Not a co-host.
No, not a co-host, as a
Like
guest.
us.
Like as you are guests, yes. And so thank you very much for listening. Thanks, guys, for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you next week.
See you next
See you
week,
next
guys.
week, everyone.
Bye. If you'd like to submit a topic for us to discuss, please email us. The address is mail@seriouslywithsarahbeeny.co.uk. Seriously was created by me, your host, Sarah Beeny, and our producer, Jonathan Profaska. The show is recorded and edited by Jonathan Profaska and Christian Kay.